Hola familia, bienvenidos a otra edición de Somos Más English. Hi family,
Hello.
welcome. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another English debate.
That's right,
No, pero
that's right.
si vamos a hablar
Recap-
español, si vamos a
that
hablar
we were
español, yo
talking-
también entro. Si vamos a hablar...
Of course I have it. So yes, welcome to another edition of Somos Más English. Today's show will be geared towards discussing the lack of human rights in Cuba. Okay.
Enjoy the debate, people. It's gonna be really interesting. And
Thank you, Lazaro.
don't forget to share and follow us.
Yes, please.
That's right. Please
Subscribe, share.
Okay.
Please.
So the format of today's show, basically, we're gonna go through 3 different scenarios or articles, and then we're going to open it up to discussion. So Iskra, I wanted to share with you an article that I found on Human Rights Watch related to Cuba. So I'm gonna share my screen right now.
Okay.
So as you can see, it's a legible.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So over here, you'll see, this is fairly recent, September 24, 2020. And Cuba's government throws its repressive playbook at a journalist. We're talking about Camila Acosta. She's been basically harassed and arrested several times and relocated. I mean, Nazi style, right? Where they just tell you, oh, you're going to live here now for almost a year. Now, this has to do with her not being in favor or not agreeing with a law decree, because it's not really like a law that goes through the parliament and is approved. This is a sort of like an executive order that they have in Cuba, and that is Law Decree 370, which basically allows the government to interpret whatever you say as offensive, counter-revolutionary, and a danger to the nation, right? So it's a law that allows them to interpret whatever people say online or on the street as something that can be regulated, that needs to be stopped, that you can go to jail for, that you can be fined for. And let's see, the Cuban government's brutal restrictions on free speech fall particularly hard on journalists. Camila Acosta has learned from this experience in just the 1 year since August 2019, when she began working as an independent journalist for CubaNet. She has endured several instances of abuse. So then earlier this summer, in 2020, Acosta was waiting for friends in a park in Havana when 2 officers asked for her ID. Then they arrested her, took her to a police station. Inside their bag, they found several face masks reading "No to Decree 370." And you see, 2019 law forbidding the dissemination of information, like I said, contrary to the social interest, whatever that means. Okay. So the officers forced her to strip her clothes, search her further, and then they find her and threaten her with further prosecution for protesting. But that's not the only time that this happens. In November of 2019, an immigration official stopped her as she was trying to go to a human rights event in Argentina. And then they told her that she was forbidden from leaving the country. Since February, she has been forced to move houses in Havana at least 6 times. Can you imagine being forced to move 6 times because the government harasses you? Every time that she rents a new house, the owners tell her that she has to leave, because that's the thing. The government leans, right? They lean on the house owner, and they pressure them to evict her. Some said that police had chastised them for hosting a dissident. That's right. This is common in Cuba. People shun you when you don't toe the government line. Imagine, let's say in America, if right now you were against Donald Trump and you tried to rent an apartment and then the landlord said, oh, you cannot live here because the government came over and told me that since you don't support Donald Trump, you have to go. 6 times this has happened to her. In March, police arbitrarily detained her. She was covering a demonstration in Havana. They interrogated her for 2 hours. They threatened to persecute her for usurping public functions by reporting the news. The police eventually let her go. Then 2 weeks later, she was summoned back to another police station where an officer showed her 3 of her recent Facebook posts. So this is what the police do now. They check your Facebook, including a meme of Fidel Castro. Can you imagine if in England, for example, somebody had a meme about Boris Johnson on their Facebook page and then the police showed up? The officer invoked Decree 370. So that's disseminating information contrary to the social interest, and imposed a fine of 3,000 Cuban pesos, about 120 bucks, which is several times the average salary in Cuba. That is for another time. Another night, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then, so basically what they do is they weaponize Cuba's free speech restrictions against her. And, you know, they crush the freedom of the press, right? Only the state-owned press can actually, you know, conduct their work to basically spread propaganda. So that was the first article that I wanted to share with you guys. Hello, Smell, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. So then I have 2 more videos to show you guys, and
Okay.
these are related to Amelie. One moment, please, as I pull up the videos. Okay, so I apologize. Amelie Ramos. So this is an art curator in Havana. She's also what they call a dissident, right? Because she dissents from the restrictions and the repression and just the constraints that the Cuban government puts on free speech, freedom of the press, freedom of culture, of the arts, of anything really in the island. So here, first, we're going to see a video where she's not allowed to visit another artist who also protested the Decree 370. All right, let me share that with you. Okay. And it should let me put the sound, but maybe it will not. In any case, you guys let me know.
Okay.
Okay, you can see that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. So then I'll play it. Can you hear it?
No.
No? Okay. So as what you can see here is that Amelie is trying to get to the man who is filming, to his house. And these people are actually agents of the government.
Right.
So you see that because they know that the people have phones now, so they're in plain clothes, and they never lay hands on her. They just sort of block her path, right? Nobody. It's sad that, you know, the other neighbors, they don't do anything. But these are actually plain clothes, like ministry, Ministry of the Interior, MININT, agents. and they're telling her, no, you can't visit him, you can't come see him. And then soon, let me see, right, it's only less than 2 minutes. Yep, see how they cover it, make sure that you can't really see.
So basically, they're bullying her and keeping her from going through that street to visit her friend.
That's correct. That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And then now, yep, they're arresting her.
Now they're arresting her.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you just saw just plainclothes people like abduct a woman in the street in this country?
They gave themselves away by arresting her. I mean, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're part of the government when you're arresting a person in the middle of the street. I mean.
So, and then this other video is the same person, but now she's in her house, and what they're doing is that they won't let her leave her house. But they don't use government agents, or not too many. They use these basically communist sympathizers, which are these old ladies, part of the
Yeah.
That's a charge here in the United States. If you don't let somebody live a place where they are, like in their house or any place, and you keep the person against their will, that's a charge here, and it's considered
kidnapping,
unlawful imprisonment.
Oh,
Right.
unlawful imprisonment. Yeah. Okay.
That's a charge. That's a serious charge in here.
Okay.
That's like kidnapping somebody.
So let me see if you can see this one now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. Yep. So right now this is Anna Meli, the same lady. She's standing in her house, and now see how these older ladies. Hold on. They won't let her leave.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you can't hear that, but I have heard the video, and they are screaming all kinds of stuff at her. They're not. I mean, she's saying, "Why are you doing this to me? I haven't done anything to you. I'm just trying to leave. You can't keep me in my house. I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything against any of you or against the government or against anybody. I'm just trying to leave. You don't have to do this." And they're basically bullying her and telling her that that she's just against them, and that she needs to stay inside. So it's
unbelievable. They're telling her, "Oh, because this is Cuba, you're not allowed to leave your house because this is Cuba." And where's she? Who is she? Isn't that happening in Cuba?
Yep.
But that's something that's happening lately.
Oh, there.
Like anybody who's an opponent to the government or who opposes to the government. I have this friend of mine. His name is Osiel Morales Diaz. He is the coordinator of a movement in my hometown in Diego de Avila, and he's been taken out of lines where he has been standing to buy some chicken. He's been taken out and not allowing him to get food. They go like, "Okay, you're not allowed to be here because you're recording what's going on here. You're not here to buy no food." So it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous what they're doing.
yeah.
It's dictators. You know how they are.
So I wanted to show you guys.
Mhm.
Come on, frame by frame. Oh, all right. Let me see if I can make it so that you can see. At the last minute, you're gonna see the agent try to grab the phone. There he is. There he goes. Look, there he goes, right there. The guy in the blue shirt, and then it gets messy. Yeah, he's trying to grab the phone.
And the worst, one person for like 10 people.
Yeah.
I mean, how can she defend herself?
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I wanted to start off with, which is there's no freedom of speech in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And then to close it all out is the fact that now Cuba forms part of the Human Rights Council in the United Nations, which is sad. It's a slap in the face of 11 million people. It's a slap in the face of the hundreds of thousands of Cubans outside of Cuba.
Well, the 3 million of us. And, and to be honest with you, a lot of us are, Cuban Americans. I mean, we are American citizens, and so here's an organization that is supposed to be, it was done to for the human rights. They're supposed to be making sure that all of the countries are abiding these laws and these human rights. And how is it that this country that violates, and we have evidence after evidence daily, we get evidence every day. Every day we put up posts, we put up, videos of things that are happening every single day. How can this be possible? How can they be a part of the United Nations Human Rights Council when clearly it's outrageous?
Article 9 on the Declaration of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. On the Article 9, it says nobody should be arrested like for no reason, or nobody should be kicked out of their country. How would you say that? Expatriado.
Right.
Exiled.
Exile.
Well, is that what you think? Because I was in America the other day, and I think they said something like
but for example, if you are an American that wants to live in France, you are an expatriate because you chose to live in another country, even though you're an American. But
you're still not discriminated against. You're still, and that's where in Article 2 of the Human Rights, you're not supposed to be discriminated against because of your, of your religion, of your gender, because of your, of your
should not be kicked out of your country, like not even because that's what they did to Richard Sardui Perez and his wife. They are in Malaysia now,
right?
And that's they've been kicked out of Cuba. So because of their political views and because of what he thinks and what he's been, telling the world about Cuba, about the Cuban system, the Cuban regime, what's going on there, and that's the only reason. That's the only crime he committed. He didn't get a firearm and try to kill somebody. He didn't try to manipulate nothing against the government, but just telling the truth that they are violating the rights, or they are lying, because everything started with some kind of a series that they were broadcasting on TV about the war that happened after the triumph of the revolution in a part of Cuba, the central part of Cuba, of those people who rebelled against the government. And they lied so much about what really happened. And Richard just he made the point clear that it was all a lie, because he has family that were killed in that, and whose bodies never appeared, so they don't even know where they buried those bodies and things of that kind. And that was the main reason why he was what's the right word? Give me the right word. It's not exile. It's when you're expatriated.
I think it's called, or
when you're kicked out of your country, against your will. That's something that happened to Jose Marti back in the 18th century. So it's ridiculous. A country not a country, let's say a regime like the regime in Cuba, the dictatorship in Cuba. They violate so many human rights, and now they are in the United Nations. They are accepted there, like a proof of a country, of a government that takes care of people and takes care and looks after the human rights. That's not right. That's not fair at all. It's that's the reason why we're having some kind of demonstration for this coming Saturday.
So Sydney saying the correct answer is expatriate.
Expatriate, yeah. Well, yeah, that sounds about right. Expatriate.
Sydney.
Expatriate. So he was expatriated. Blah, 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 blah. That's the problem with the language that isn't ours.
So I wanted to share with everyone.
Let me quote something there. See,
okay.
I did exercise my early voting today.
Oh, nice.
So I went there. I was wearing this shirt and this hat, the hat that you know that you like.
Oh my God.
So that my vote was secret.
Okay.
You know, so I wasn't telling nobody who I was voting for.
You could, yeah.
Right. They didn't have to poll you.
They kind of figured it out, I think.
It wasn't obvious. It wasn't obvious at all. There were a couple of things that happened there. If you want me to, I can tell you the experience. But it was funny, and it's I felt honestly, and not being a fanatic, not being a Trump, because I don't consider myself a Trumpist. It would be ridiculous to say I'm Trumpist because it will be in the office for another 4 years. So if I'm Trumpist, what am I going to do after 4 more years? So, but I felt that most of the people were backing out Trump in there. Most of the people, gave me the okay sign. Just one person was like, "Oh, that guy is going to be taken to jail," and I was like, "Hey, this cat, there were these black women. She's coming with a shirt that read All Lives Matter."
All lives matter. Wow.
Well, good.
Yeah, and then I saw her and I told her, "I like your shirt." That was right inside of the place where they had already voted. So I was about to get inside and vote. So she came out, I saw the shirt, and I said, "I like your shirt." She said, "I like yours too." And yeah, like the 5 or 6 of them started woo 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 woo, and I go like, "You see, people are saying that black people are not going to vote for Trump. Hey, smart people are going to vote for Trump. He's the option."
I think, I believe these, all of these, what do they call these polls? They're going to have, they're not accurate.
I want to agree with you 110%. The same thing or worse is going to happen now that happened in 2016.
Yeah.
I want to take that opportunity to talk about what maybe this country can do, but just in general, what we should do or what our attitude should be with the United Nations. Over here on screen, you see that this organization, Somos Más, which is a non-profit organization geared towards the liberation or the freedom and the human rights of Cubans in Cuba, has decided to have a protest this Saturday in front of the UN. So we're going to do it in New York, and we're also going to do it in, I believe, Switzerland is where the human rights building is. And let me see if I can make this. Hold on. Let me go down.
I think we're calling everyone from all the countries, wherever there is a UN building, for you to go and exercise your rights to protest in front of those buildings that day, because we need to have our voices heard, and they need to hear what we have to say.
Exactly. Hillel Newer from Human Rights Watch said that, oh, good Lord, electing these dictatorships as UN judges on human rights is like appointing a gang of pyromaniacs to the fire brigade, right? And he called Cuba a police state, which it is. All right. Remember that Cuba, I've made, you and I, Iskra, made a video before about Ruiz Urquiola.
Right.
who is a doctor in Cuba who has been inoculated with the HIV virus by the government, with the HIV by the government, excuse me, because of his stance against the government's mistreatment of the ecosystem, the ecology, the environment in Cuba in the beginning. And then when he built an ecological farm with help from other scientists from around the globe, because he is a biologist, and he got kicked out of the university, kicked out of his job. He opened up an ecological farm in the mountains, and then they went up to the mountains, and then they killed animals, they harassed them, they ruined his crops. And then towards the end, his sister, she became ill with cancer, so he was trying to help her. And if it wasn't for him, she would be dead already, because all the other women in the same cohort, meaning that at the same time that she was sick, there were other women also sick, and this is a public health system, right? So all those other women that were sick with cancer at the same time that his sister was, they all died. The only reason that his sister is alive is because of his work as not a trained doctor, but like a very good biologist. He did biopsies on her. He made sure to follow up with the cancer, with the oncologists. He made sure to follow up with the scans and the x-rays and the pictures and everything, the cultures. He did all that as a scientist, and that's, she basically had him as an angel, right? But because of their stance, because she was also not in favor of all this, how do you say, these violations of free speech, because she was also a professor at Havana University. They kicked her out of her job, and then they wouldn't give her the appropriate treatment for her cancer. So he had to somehow get medicine from outside of Cuba. He had to follow up. He had to become an oncologist himself in order to keep her alive. And that is the same UN that when he tried to speak and make his case in the UN, he had to go through a completely different NGO that graciously gave him like 5 minutes of their time so he could speak. But then every time he tried to speak, China, Eritrea, Venezuela, Cuba, and I believe North Korea would call a point of order. They would use a parliamentary system they have in the UN to stifle his message of the violations of human rights that are happening on the island. Yeah. So we are asking that everyone that sympathizes with justice, with freedom, with Cuba, and just human dignity, to please join us at in front of any office of the United Nations this Saturday, 24th, in order to protest these appointments of not just Cuba, but also, Saudi Arabia and China. I mean, to the Human Rights Council. It's not right.
Yeah.
All countries are paying for this.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up Urquiola, because this week we've also had another violation of human rights. We had some of the political prisoners. Ferrer has called us. He came out in one of the videos, and he made a statement that 3 political prisoners inside the prisons of Cuba had the Cuban government had tried to put a vaccine on them. They haven't been able to, because without giving them any reason, and they don't know what the vaccine is for. They didn't vaccinate anyone else in the jail. They didn't tell them what the vaccine was for. They didn't know anything, basically. They were waiting to see, because it was first just one, but after 3 cases, then they brought it up to our attention. So here's another human rights that, is being violated. So when is it going to stop? When is the world going to put their eyes on what's happening in our country. And by the way, you know what I want people, and if you can put, I think we can start putting the link in, Enrique, because I would like for people to understand, you know, that one of the reasons why we do this and one of the reasons why we're doing this is not just for our country. You know, Cuba is, for me, is like the center of the cancer, right? This is but it is spreading. This cancer is very drastically spreading throughout the Americas, in South America, in Latin America, and has reached, unfortunately, it has reached the United States. And so, you know, we need to be very cautious of what is happening here right here in our own backyard. Because as you saw this journalist being threatened, well, you know, I'm afraid we have journalists here in the States being threatened as well.
Let me tell you something real quick there. Today, when I went to vote, as I was wearing the hat and the shirt, outside the place, there was a guy seated at a table there. I believe it was part of the people organizing the process. And he told me that somebody had some kind of argument inside there because he was wearing a mask that read Trump, that I wasn't supposed to be wearing this to go to vote. And I told him, you're not right. I have the right to wear this clothes. I'm not doing campaign because I'm not having a flag. I don't have a sign with me. So I have the right to dress the way I want.
But you still have the right to campaign, by the way, even if you wanted to. It's a right.
Vote, not at the moment you're going to vote, but it's ridiculous. They're trying to like silence whoever thinks different.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and that's why I think a lot of these polls are not accurate, because a lot of people are not saying who they're going to vote for because they're afraid. And this is terrifying to me. Absolutely. That here in the United States, we're losing that freedom of speech, of saying what we're thinking, you know, of what we want, if we think differently from the popularity, you know.
That's part of democracy.
That's right.
It's part of democracy. You and I can have different points of view and think different, and that doesn't make you my enemy. No, it's you know, it's democracy. That's democracy, and we can sit and have a coffee together, and life goes on. Life is beautiful, and not because of that we're enemies.
That's right. Let's welcome Sydney. Hi, Sydney.
Hi, everyone. Do you hear me right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, to congratulate you all for all this amazing work you're doing in favor of your movement. And I think that's an amazing tool for English speakers to know what is happening with Cuba. And going back to the original subject, Raquel was talking about the 370 law. And I would like to state that this is not the first time this has happened. Do you remember the pre-delictive peligrosity law, which stated that anyone that could be suspicious could be jailed up to 2 years because just look suspicious? And who will determine that you are suspicious? Well, the CDR, the Committee of Defense of the Revolution, or the guys in your neighborhood, the agents, they will determine that you are a threat to the socialism or the social process in Cuba. So that has never been in history that a person could be convicted or jailed for just being presumptively suspicious of committing a crime. The law states that you're innocent until proven otherwise. And that law, it's dated from the 70s, and I knew a lot of guys in Cuba. I've been here in America for only 5 years, And I knew a lot of guys in Cuba that they were in prison just for being suspicious. And that's a very broad spectrum of things that they can put in. So you can be suspicious for being against the revolution, for being against the government, for being critical, for being whatever they want to. That's another scape that they have to put you in jail. So this is not the first time this is happening. It's totally unconstitutional in any constitutional. I would say the worst constitution in the world will not accept that. That's totally insane. And the first thing that a government, a dictatorship government, will do is to disqualify the opposition. And they've been doing this for a long time. If you're against the revolution, you're a delinquent, you're a bad person, they will make up a criminal record on you, because they don't have on their minds that someone can be against them. So they will fabricate, elaborate a criminal background on you, so you will look bad in front of the media, because they will, as they control the media, they will put you out as a delinquent, as a person of the bad behavior, a social uh,
Correct.
misbehaving person. So that's the first tactic, to disqualify you, to make you look bad, to make you look that you don't have credibility. So that they've been doing that because they control the media, they control the press, they control TV, they control radio, they control everything. So this has been a practice that's been inherited from the socialism and KGB and all the uh, promoters of the socialism before Cuba. And Cuba has been a very good student, and they've been doing it very, very good.
In the perfect
And
of the evil. Let's put it that way. They've been the perfect disciples of the evil.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
That,
And
like charging somebody for a crime they didn't commit or they haven't committed. That's just crazy. That's insane.
yeah,
And then
that's totally
they have
totally unconstitutional. That's against any law. Even the Romans and the Greeks, 3 centuries or 300 years ago, they will not be able to put on in a constitution.
that doesn't make
So it doesn't
Come
make
on,
any
guys.
sense.
No,
Yep.
it makes perfect sense if you understand that Cubans are from the future. You haven't seen the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where
No.
he's a cop that stops the crime before it happens.
Yeah.
That's why I tell all my American friends,
you know
listen to me. We are from the future. We are here to warn you.
truly
Absolutely.
it's understandable only if we let the outside world and make the outside world understand that there's a dictatorship in Cuba and they do
Yep.
whatever they please. They don't go by no laws. They are the law. They do
And
Of
whatever.
course.
And
And they
that's
are
why,
above the law. Absolutely.
yeah, we're
But
here to explain that to them. This week I actually was partially interviewed by Carlitos Madrid, and I told my story when I left Cuba, and I didn't leave Cuba voluntarily. My family was one of those that was thrown out in the 1980s in through the Mariel, because my father was a political prisoner and was against Fidel and all of his revolution since the beginning, because they actually shot one of his uncles in front of him. So ever since then, since he was a little boy, he wanted nothing to do with them. And so we left, and I was 9 years old, and I was one of those that, they went to nowadays, the difference between then and now is that back then we had no cameras, and we didn't, we had no media to tell our stories, but they were using the same tactics. And it's the same tactics that they were using, the Nazis used. It's the same tactics. This is a continuous, you see it over and over again, and it's not new. Welcome, Jose. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you guys so much for doing this. We need the world to stand up and challenge our leaders to ask for freedom. I mean, where are we going? Is North Korea going to be next? Cuba violates every target that the Human Rights Council is supposed to prohibit. So how is them alongside Russia and China joining that council, and how they oppressing people even when they go to denounce the atrocities within those countries? We need the world to stand with us and put a face to freedom. So that's why I wanted to join, and thank you all for doing this.
Thank you, Jose. There is definitely a lack of moral courage in the world at this time. When you, Sydney, were talking about the CDRs, the committees for defense of the revolution, it brought to mind that group of old ladies that came to harass and block that dissident from leaving her house. But what is that? What is an act of repudiation? What is that if not the same thing when you're eating a meal and a group of Black Lives Matter activists comes and tells you to raise your fist, say Black Lives Matter, say it, say her name, say it, kneel, kiss my boot, kiss, so it may be, from maybe a different angle. Oh, it's, it has to do with race, when in Cuba it had more to do with, the upper class and the lower class, right? The old Marxist paradigm or economic paradigm, but it's still the same animus, the same attitude, and the same problem. Because at the end of the day, all these protests that we see happening around the world, they can be about different topics in each country, but there's, at the end, you're gonna see, oh, by the way, this is all because of capitalism.
It doesn't have to be that at the end, just by looking at some of them wearing shirts with the picture of Che Guevara.
Oh my God!
And seeing a lot of them doing how to say, graffiti.
Oh, hammer and sickle. Yeah.
Of la hoz y el martillo. How do you say la hoz y el martillo?
Hammer and sickle.
Hammer. Okay. So you see that tells you right away what's the root of the problem. The root it's communism. It's the same crap.
It is. It totally is.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sidney.
Yeah, the formula has been the same through the years, and that's why I get amazed when people don't get the signs of if you know a disease for 100 years, and you know that a cold starts with a runny nose, sore throat, and so on and so on, you don't need to think of other stuff. It's a common cold. So the symptoms of the communism, socialism has been the same for many, many years. So those are all symptoms, classic symptoms. It's been the same. It's the same trailer of the movie all over and over again. Now, in the 21st century, people do not realize that. It happened to Venezuela. It happened to Nicaragua. And it all started with the same script. It's been the same script over and over again. And how can people realize what's going on? And mostly that's what I have to thank you for doing this. It's to open the eyes of the people that these are the same symptoms. It's not, you don't have to be a physician to recognize that this disease started by using democracy to get to the place where they want, and then destroying that democracy that got them where they are right now. And they use the democracy, and then they destroy the democracy to do whatever they want. Eternal re-elections and ruling and changing constitutions and do whatever they want, getting rid of the constitution. So that's why it's so important that I'm very thankful for you doing this, because we need to be the eyes opener of this Americans, that they think that this is not going to happen to them, and it could happen to them, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, we see it happening in Latin America, to Bolivia today. I mean,
you see,
here we go again. and it's and then Chile is next. I mean, it's coming, right? So we're not learning. We're not learning from our mistakes. We continue. It's like we have hypnosia. How do you say when you forget things?
Amnesia.
Yeah, there you go. I forget that word. It's just horrible. I don't understand how people can forget so easily. I mean,
you know why? Because they have this this type of a speech that people want to hear. So they tell people what they want to hear. They tell people. I don't know if you guys have ever watched the movie The Great Dictator by Charles Chaplin. The last speech on that movie, you hear that and you go like, wow, Charlie Chaplin is so right on this speech. But if you listen to that like deeply, you go and there's a socialist uh, type of a speech there, because it's telling you like everybody's equal and we should do this, and dictators, because he's talking like dictators promise like that, and what do? That's what socialists and communists do. They promise. They have these sweet words that people want to hear, and promise, and at the end they don't accomplish none of the things that they promise.
Right.
And the Democrats are doing the same.
Right.
So, and pretty simple. I go with people coming back to this country, even related to Cuba, like people who are pro Biden, and I go, just one thing makes me scared just by looking at Biden. If the dictators like Biden, if they like them, and they are promoting their campaign in Cuba, and they are talking that he's the guy that should be the president, hey, that tells you right there.
That's a warning sign.
That's a real red flag. It's telling you, if it's good for the dictators, he isn't good at all for the people of Cuba and for Cuban and for our country's freedom. So this is not only about the elections of Republicans versus Democrats. This is about keeping this country, keeping the democracy in this country, stopping the communists from stepping in the higher levels of this nation. So this is serious. This is serious because they have infiltrated, like you said, the Latin American countries. They exported those ideas to Africa, to everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world. It's like you said. It's a tumor. It's a tumor that the main tumor. It's in Havana these days, and it's spread out to different parts of the world. So
Jose has been dying to say something.
Yeah, you know what it is. In my opinion, it's that freedom makes everybody be busy, being free, and we forget sometimes what it takes to be free. Whether it is somebody serving for freedom, like we had somebody on the chat who has defended freedom literally as a soldier, but more than that, the socialists and the communists take the space because we take freedom for granted sometimes, and we don't defend it with bureaucracy because, again, we're busy being free and living our lives. But the socialists take that space and they fill it up, and they form alliances with anyone to make sure that they get the popular demand, or the popular what's common at the time. So I think it is our responsibility and our duty to stand up for freedom and to tell people that enough is enough, and that some alliances or partnerships with dictatorships and with forms of oppression of liberties is not right, and that we will show face, and we will be there, and we will defend freedom, even though we don't have to worry about it because we have the freedoms. But if we forget about being free, that's going to happen anywhere in the world, because they'll use that space that you live behind and they'll try to use it to manipulate freedom.
Hey guys, I wanted to share with you something, and that is the Constitution of Cuba, the new one that was supposedly approved by by the people. And there is an article here, and that is article number 4. And I will show it to you. I already put it in Google Translate so that you can see in English what it translates to. Can you read it well?
Closer.
You want me to zoom in?
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So
Right here.
Hold on.
Citizens have the right to fight by all means, including armed struggle, when no other recourse is possible, against anyone who tries to overthrow the political, social, and economic order established by this Constitution.
Yeah, there's no.
That means that you saw those old ladies standing and blocking her path when somebody disagrees with the government. But this can also mean by the armed struggle that mob rule, lynching is legal, basically, in Cuba.
Right.
They can make a case for it now. They changed this constitution, or they put it in, these articles in 2019. Okay? What we're looking at is the legalization of lynchings, of political motivated lynchings. And go ahead.
And what gets to me, Riquette, is that a lot of people tell me, well, that'll never happen here in the United States because we have a U.S. Constitution that has been in place for 200 years, and no one can break this. Well, let me tell you something. We had a Constitution also, and it was broken. It was violated. And it was overdrawn.
That's right.
I believe it was Ronald Reagan that said that freedom is not passed over a bloodstream. It takes no more than one generation to lose it. So, meaning, I believe it's something like that. It's not exactly Ronald Reagan's words, but President Reagan meant that we need to educate our generation, our younger generations, and tell them, what real life is and how easy it is to lose what we have, because they take it for granted. They think I was born having this, and this is what I have, and I've had it. I've always had it, and nothing's going.
Right.
We have to make them understand that we can lose what we have, because it happened in Cuba. It happened before. It happened in many different parts of the world.
I remember in the 90s, when the Venezuelans were coming, and I kept telling them, I said, this is going to happen. And they kept telling us, no, it'll never happen in Venezuela.
Venezuela is in Cuba. That's what they used to say. No. Venezuela is not Cuba. We're not going to allow that to happen. Hey, they do it so slowly. They start, so smooth, so slowly that by the time you open your eyes, they have secured the power so well with the army that there's nothing else you can do. Like you go try to move, hey buddy, you can't move. You're mine. So that's how they do it.
It's scary.
Yeah, I would like to ask Riquette, was that law approved by the Senate and the House of Representatives in Cuba, Riquette?
We don't have a Senate.
Wait. Which law?
No, what happens, and that's a joke. What happens in Cuba is that the laws are not made by the Congress or the House of Representatives. They don't have discussions. There is not a veil that will pass this stage or the other stage. So everybody knows the rules are made by them. There's nobody questioning laws. There's nobody opposing laws. There's no vetoes for laws. So as my father used to say, Cuba is not governed by law. Cuba is governed by any other unverbal or verbal rules that will come out of the mouth of the president or the vice or whoever invents the law.
Used to
So
be Fidel Castro. It used to be Fidel Castro's word.
yeah,
Whatever came to his crazy out of wagon mind, he did it, and nobody could question that. If someone dared to question him, that would be the end of that person. We all know.
absolutely.
We
Yep.
all know that from the very beginning, he took everybody that had a different idea from his, took them down. Took down Camilo Cienfuegos, and then Guevara, all of them. You name them. Name
Hermanos.
all those.
Yeah.
Nobody survived him but his brother. That was the only one because he was his brother.
Yeah, it's sad. It's very sad, but it's the reality, and people around the world need to understand that that's the Cuban people have been ex, expatriate from the law. So Cubans, they have no approach to law. We used to in Cuba, we used to listen to Fidel's speeches because of what Fidel told yesterday or last night. There was something coming out of that. So it's like when the river sounds, stones will be carried out. So that's we got used to that. We don't have access to votes or to make opinions of law. So you will, well, Fidel talked, or Raul, or in this case Diaz Canel, they talked last night about this. So that's like losing a snowball and see what the people think, and just to get an opinion very smart from the people, and then they will land whatever they want in the form of a law, in a form of a rule, in a form of a circular, or whatever they want to call it. They have very funny names of what they do, and but that's gonna become the rule of the law. Whatever they say, whatever crossed their minds yesterday, is gonna be up to date the next day. So it's kind of how it's been going
That
for the last 61 years.
they changed the law as easy as they changed their mind. Because if something is good for, if something was good for Fidel Castro at a certain time, like saying nobody's allowed to have U.S. dollars, and then all of a sudden, July 26, 1993, he stood up in front of the Cuban population or people and the entire world and said that having American dollars was allowed. So people had been taken to jail before that just for having one single dollar in their pockets. So it's they've done since 1959 whatever they have pleased.
That's right. I wanted to share another article, Article 32, Section H of that 2019 Constitution. As you can see here, they they'll let you be an artist as long as you are a socialist. The freedom of artistic creation is promoted in all its forms of expression, in accordance with the humanistic principles on which the cultural policy of the state and the values of socialist society. Everything within the state, nothing outside the state. Cuba is more really, at this point, it's still very communist because they control 75% of the economy, but it is also fascist because you may be an independent artist, you don't work for a government agency, but you have to belong to a government union of artists, and then they can obviously censor and they can basically dictate what is appropriate art in accordance with the cultural policy of the state and the values of socialist society. Who puts this in a constitution? Let me ask you.
Communist. And this is an issue. This is the biggest issue because I mean historically through arts, that's how people have expressed their oppressions. This is how they can this was an outlet for how they were feeling. And now this has all been taken away. So government controls every single part of this society. And this is how we live on our day-to-day. And Ernesto has joined us. Ernesto, hi. Welcome.
Okay. I wanna
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, my friend. Hold on before Ernesto, before you start. I wanted
All
to
right.
say, Iskra, that is similar to what happens to the actors or comedians in outside of Cuba, you know, in Europe and in America, and maybe in Canada too, where they say something that is not politically correct. You maybe people think that here, when they say political correctness is just, oh, you just want to let people be offensive and rude. No, political correctness comes from communist regimes having laws, like I just showed you, China, the Soviet Union, and Cuba, where you cannot say things unless they are politically, meaning that they align with the socialist principles, with the party line, the Communist Party, okay, with the state. That is what political correctness means, okay? And when we see it happen here, it may be happening from these what do you call them, these non-profits, these organizations that have to do with minorities and things like this, but they are doing the same thing and they're trying to take power. So in our case, first came the government, the revolution, and then the political correctness. However, since the world has seen that, now what they're doing is they're instituting the political correctness first, and then they are voting themselves into power. Okay? Go ahead, Ernesto.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm kind of late. I was actually doing some stuff on here, but I'm glad that you guys bringing this topic because it's very interesting. We had to say like when I wasn't born when that happened. Obviously, I was just born in 1988. But hearing people from the past, when Castro started, he actually covered everything. He started like you guys know he started as a socialist, social democrat. That's the title, like and he makes everything changing again, in his favor somehow. Right now, what is happening is that he used the world with the people, like United States, but the people, the Cuba is their voice. So he using that to say, oh, all the decisions that I'm making, all the stuff that I, been doing is because the people wants me to do it. And it's not true. My family, I grew up in a family that it was not related to the communists at all. And like that kind of, environment, there was, I can tell there's a lot of families in the country, but our voices was shut down because we don't have that right to express ourselves, and we are most of the time silent. So that's why I when I see stuff like that here and in the US that happened or started the same way, I'm kind of like, saying we are repeating again what is happening in Cuba back home. And we can know a lot that happened again. I mean, that's something that we as a Cuban, Venezuelan, Nicaraguans, and every single person with the right to express ourselves, we should stop and say, no, you don't gonna do what it happens back in home, back in Cuba, back in Venezuela, back in Nicaragua, and all those Latin American countries. Like they're easy to, they were easy to involve in that craziness, and get what they are right now. And we got the right to fight, and I'm one of them. I'm gonna fight all day against all that kind of like stuff.
I think more than anything, Ernesto, we have not just that, we have, I feel like we have a responsibility to society. We have a responsibility because as Sydney or as Osman was saying, a lot of these people don't know what losing your freedom means. They've never lost it. They've always had it, right? I mean, my children were born to be to not be able to speak freely, to not be able to go out of your house, to not be able to write what you want, to not be able to say or express yourself. I mean, look at this, these artists that cannot express themselves through their art. I mean, this is insane. They're artists. This is what they are supposed to be doing. And, you know, and so I feel we have a responsibility more than anything to inform, and that this is why these forums are so important. And I'm so glad we're doing this.
And I'm agree with you 100%. We are the messengers right now. I would say every single Cuban, Venezuelan, and even though people that grew up in this country are, you know, they need to fight for the freedom. They cannot let that freedom take it away. If you want to know what it is, I mean, how it is, you can go ask any Cuban. Are you in back home? Can you say, I don't like Castro in public? Are you allowed to say that? What would happen? What would be the repercussions if you say that? Like right now here, there's a lot of people in the streets right now with all the voting thing. You see Biden one side, Kamala Harris on the other one, Trump and Pence on the other side. You don't see that in my country. You don't see that in Cuba at all, ever. And in 60 and something many years, counting or show me a day or one time that you can tell me or show me, say, hey, yeah, dude, look at the elections. Look at the people outside, you know, supporting the candidate for this party or whatever party, any party in general. You don't see that over there because we don't have the right to express ourselves. We don't have the right to choose your candidates. You know?
You're so right about that. And it's interesting what you just said. You said that it's been so many years, and it does worry me. It worries me the fact that there are so many generations in Cuba already that they don't know the taste of freedom. They don't know what it tastes like to be free, to go out and exercise the right to vote, like I did today proudly. Let me show you again.
I'm going tomorrow. I'm going on Wednesday.
I'm so happy about that. Honest to God, it makes you feel happy because you're free. You can do it. You can choose. You say, well, I don't like this guy. I like this guy, or I don't like none of the two. And you can go like independent if you don't like none of the two. Nobody's gonna tell you.
Well,
we cannot lose that.
I have a
taste of freedom. It's so good. It's so good for those who have never experienced that taste. It's beyond description. There's no word to describe the fact of you being able to move around the world without having to tell nobody or asking for permission to nobody. You just you save your money with your job, save the money, buy the ticket and fly, go wherever you want to go. When you see that, hey, let me tell you a little bit of my experience. I did it in December last year. I went to England, to London. I flew from here to London. Nobody asked me, what are you doing here? You know, how did you get money to come here? Nobody did. I didn't even talk to no one, like get them into the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And I traveled to different countries in Europe, and I've done it here in America, and that's freedom. That's freedom. It's not only on that, you can vote, you can travel around, you can think of something you want to eat, and you can go and get it. It's not gonna be
hold on. Before we continue, I want to say hello to Raidel, and I want to share another human rights news, and then we'll listen to Raidel. So if you let me share over here, guys. So an activist that is in jail, a political prisoner, he told his organization in Cuba, which is called the UNPACU, which is the Patriotic Union of Cubans, let's say.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is that they're being injected with a strange, vaccine. Now, if you guys know that Cuba touts that they're working with the Russians to develop the COVID-19 vaccine, well, lo and behold, they've been gathering the political prisoners and have been inoculating them with some. They don't even know. They don't tell them what it is. Okay, so people need to know that this is happening right now. When I see the BBC, when I see PBS talking about the great, how great Cuba is handling COVID-19, how great they handle cancer, what a great medical powerhouse Cuba is. I just think of these cases that we as Cubans, we hear from our families, from our friends. We have, there's evidence, there's letters, there's video, there's photos, there's audio recordings of the just continuous violation of human rights, but that these organizations, these governments are not, they're turning a blind eye. And I think that a lot of it is on purpose. A lot of it is because they have also been penetrated and taken over by people that support these regimes. Oh yes, I will show you here. Something strange is happening. Oh, in prison in Havana. Members of different parties that oppose the regime in Havana, according to the statements of the leader. Right, they're all being injected, right? And that's in Havana, but it's also happening in Santiago de Cuba, which is the other end of the island. Havana is on the west, Santiago is on the east. And they've injected 34 prisoners on the east side of the island, and it gave them some kind of itching, some kind of rash. And they say, I want to denounce that if something happens to me or I get a short-term illness, I hold the government responsible because I am a man who is completely healthy. So it's these type of cases that don't get any news coverage or media coverage, but they'll cover, you know, oh, Cuba's COVID-19 rate is the lowest in all of Latin America. There's only like, what, 19 cases. There's only one case of COVID in Cuba. There's only like 3 cases. But then we know how dirty, how unhygienic the hospitals are. We know how many people have been dying of respiratory complications is what they put in the death certificates, right? So, Raidel, please.
We also know how much they hide information, just like the Chinese and the Russians and all the communist countries. Welcome, Raidel. How are you?
Thank you. First of all, Riquet, Iskra, Sydney, Osmel, Ernesto, and Jose, pleasure to meet you all. Can you hear me all right?
The same way, man. I saw you many times speaking with Elias, and I admire you, my friend. So.
Thank you.
We have to salute.
You don't...
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
You're welcome, all.
We feel more protected now that you're here.
I feel safe now. I feel safe.
You're gonna make it right. Look at that. Hey, I was driving and I was listening and my blood was boiling because I remember not too long ago I had to read about the Human Rights Organization, how it was created. And it's a mockery what it has become. After World War II, all these countries got together to avoid something like, you know, like the genocides from happening again. And then now you see that they accept Cuba, they accepted Venezuela. But I remember not 3 months ago, they were holding special meetings, sessions, to talk about George Floyd, to talk about all the human rights violations that are happening in the US. They don't take the time to talk about Cuba, Venezuela, Bolivia, nobody, but they have every day on the agenda, every day. You can go on YouTube and you can find it when the snippets of what they are talking live. Every single day, almost something is happening in the US. I saw a couple of days, a shooting in Louisiana that we didn't even hear here. Oh, they dedicate an hour to that. But they can't talk about all this stuff that Riquet showed today. It is a mockery and it's a joke that they don't represent human rights at all. And this is just gonna get worse because they've been penetrated by the left to a point that they are the US, the free world is the enemy of them. And nothing. I don't think there is a solution that we can foresee in the near term because they have allowed the chairman of all these organizations, the UN, the Human Rights Organization, to be influenced by leftist countries, extreme leftists like Cuba, like Venezuela, Argentina has a big part on it now. So they're getting here and they believe only what these countries told them But the countries that really pay the most of their funding, which is the US and the European Union, now they are the bad side of the equation. Now the good ones, the poor people, which are the communist ones in this case. So nothing, I think it's a mockery and it's a shame. I think the US should not fund them or cooperate with them anymore because they don't deserve it.
Yeah, I'm agree with you right there. I mean, finally, a president of the United States. I mean, a president that doesn't step down, doesn't shut up when something is wrong. And I like that about Trump. That's one of the things I like that people don't like about Trump. And I have to say, I admire him because he don't shut down. He don't shut up when something is right. We have seen many presidents in the past to be too polite, but sometimes you cross that line, you need to get what you need to get. And he does it in his way, and he got better. At the beginning, I have to say, in 2016, he was green. He was very unsure. But now he learned, like, sometimes you have to kind of like find a way to say stop, but never let him be, like when something is wrong, he just cut it and say, no, and we're not going to do it like that. I'm sorry. And if you keep doing that action, we're going to go out and we're going to pick all our stuff and go. And I support 100% that they decide to take United States out that member of a dictatorship, because that's what it calls. It should be, instead of call union, world union, stuff like that on them, it should be a dictatorship group, because majority of the group is surrounded by that, and they all support abuses, oppress people and kill people, and a lot of genocide. So all the rights that they signed sometimes, it was in vain because they don't compile any of those. That's my opinion, and that's the way I see it. And accepting Cuba back as a member is an offense not just to the United States, Americans and everything. It's also to all those countries like Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, all those countries that have been suffering for years, because it's not 2-3 days. It's been years of suffering, killing, and missing people. And it's an offense, a huge offense. That's me, to those family that lost family members are killed, or whatever, because they think differently and they opposed to their countries and their government. So that's my personal opinion, and I support 100% what the United States government has done so far.
Yeah, I agree. Hi, Sydney.
Yeah, I don't want to monopolize the conversation, so I suggest us to make rounds because that's like 7 of us now, 8. So
I'm trying to go around.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with my little round. Thank you, Rydell, for your service. I remember I grew up in Guantanamo, and back in my days, I was living like 15 miles away from the Guantanamo Bay base in Guantanamo, and fortunately for us, in a small area of the city where I lived, we were able to get the broadcastings of the base by TV or radio, both of them. So I grew up watching those broadcastings. My father, he used to be an English teacher, so English was very familiar thing at home. And so we used to watch this. It was just one TV station. It was called the AFRTS, Armed Forces Radio and Television Services. So I remember watching all those military news. It was a non-profit TV station, so no commercials. It was very fun to watch. We will enjoy also the sports, the NBA, major leagues, and so on and so on. So I remember watching all those. So the commercial that they had was like more like the Army, Navy, Marines, and so on. So I was very familiar with what the military did in the past and all those years. And going back to what Riquel was showing, I was a physician in Cuba, and I was a physician in Cuba for 15 years. And I remember that I was one of the physicians that will have to request like special permission to leave the country. Back in my days, that will take up to from 5 to 7 years. So you will write a letter to the Minister of Health requested that you were leaving the country and why you were leaving the country. In my case, I stated like family reunion because we were trying to reunion my in-laws that they came before us because my in-law was a political prisoner. So it took me 5 years to get out of the country, where I was sent from the hospital to a very rural area back in the mountains. And so I spent 5 years working until I get my what they call liberation. It was called the liberation letter that will allow you.
You were in prison.
Yeah,
If you have to
it
receive
was like a sentence.
a letter of freedom, is because you were in prison.
Yeah, it was like it was like you were sentenced to for 5 years, and some of my friends they took some more, up to 7 years, depending on the minister at the time and so on. So I remember, so I practiced for 15 years in Cuba, and I've been working as a nurse here in a hospital. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, in a hospital where we treat coronavirus patients. So I remember when the peak of the virus started here in Arizona was around April this year. We started to use the convalescent plasma of the patients that had already passed the virus. They develop antibodies, so they will donate that plasma, and that plasma can be used for patients who have the mild, moderate, and severe disease. For at that time, we will have to ask for two informed consents for the patients. One of the consents, because at that time it was a trial, it was not approved by the FDA, not yet. Right now, it's already approved, but at that time, like 4 or 5 months ago, we'll have to ask for two informed consents for the patients so they can get that treatment. So one of them will be asked by the physician, and the other one is the standard consent that we ask for any patient that will get any blood products like red cells or plasma. So if the patient will not agree with those two consents, the patient will not get the treatment, and the patient will have to fully understand what is it about so they can sign both consents. If they are not convinced, you will have to call the doctor, and the doctor, the lung specialist, will explain them in detail, no matter what time they have to spend with the patient, and they will convince them or not to use the treatment. So, because if you don't do that, that's a flagrant violation of the patient's rights, and that's what they are doing in the prisons in Cuba. They are using prisoners as rats to test the Sputnik vaccine from Russia, to try it for free with no consents in Cuba, and that's the minimum. The minimum they can get is prison for that. The minimum they can get is prison, because this is a vaccine that can have a lot of side effects. Remember that right now, as we speak, we have two vaccines that are stopped right now because of reactions, and one treatment similar that the one that President Trump got, the antibodies treatment, one of them is also stopped. So right now we have three treatments that have been stopped by safety reasons, and that will prompt a lot of investigations, and that will prompt a lot of doctors to work around that. And in Cuba, they have been doing that, hiding the information for the patients, and I'm assuming that they are forcing the inmates to get the vaccine with little to no information what they are getting, and that's a flagrant violation.
Right. Well, yeah, unfortunately, that's happening. It's happening there, and it happens every day. They violate people's rights every single day.
I would like to share something with you guys, if you don't mind. Another one of my shares. One moment, please. Okay, here we go. So the this is hold on. This is an organization that based out of Miami, and they're denouncing the racism and police violence in Cuba from October 15, 2020. This is a lady in white. A lady in white is a mother, a sister, a grandmother, a woman whose family member is in jail for political reasons. And they hold protests, I believe, every Sunday or once a month on a Sunday, because they're also I believe Catholic, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Mhm.
So they dress in white. You know, a lot of them are black. Turns out a lot of political prisoners in Cuba are black. Yeah, weird. So the Cuban American National Foundation, CNAF, published an open letter on Wednesday denouncing racism and police violence in Cuba, and assures that the post-Castro dictatorship cannot be in any way a reference in terms of racial equity. In the text signed by the board of directors of the foundation, the government of Havana is accused of using police violence as state policy, conceived and executed as a tool of terror, focused especially against black citizens, the largest and most disadvantaged sector of the population. And this has been documented by activists of this race within the island. Likewise, the organization points out in the open letter they're concerned about the display in these demonstrations of images of Ernesto Che Guevara, a notorious misogynist, homophobic, ethnocentric. It's probably, they mean, because the translation is all messed up. But you know, somebody that is prejudiced against other ethnicities, and a racist who in his personal diary wrote, "The black man is indolent and dreamy. He spends his meager salary on frivolity and or drinking." Che Guevara's diary. You can look at the Che Guevara diaries, the motorcycle diaries. Yes, he said this. He said that black people are lazy. Go figure.
Maybe we should print this out for all those Black Lives Matters that are doing you know, pulling out his flag all over these riots.
But you know what? This is not as bad as what he did to the gay people when he put them in concentration camps. The UMAP in Guanacavives, I think is the name. So yeah, let's talk about it. The following open letter was written. Okay, we live in a crucial time for the future of civilization. Resorting to violence or opting for open discussion as a way to solve the problems that afflict us in the great dilemma of these times. There have been recent waves of protests in the US and around the world against racism, and police violence has raised these two issues of vital importance for democratic coexistence. Fine. These issues cannot be ignored, nor can they be approached in a superficial, biased way. We Cubans, who have experienced the longest-lived dictatorship, 60 years, in this hemisphere, know firsthand what is suffered from when intolerance prevails and freedom of expression is criminalized. For this reason, we defend the right of citizens to demonstrate in an orderly and non-violent manner as one of the fundamental freedoms enshrined in the Constitution of the United States and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Having said this, we understand it is necessary to draw attention to some truths in view of the debate that in one way or another is emerging around this problem. The Cuban government is a repressive entity. Police violence in Cuba is state policy, conceived and executed as a tool of terror, focused especially against citizens of the black race, the most numerous and disadvantaged sector of the population, as has been documented by the activists of that race in Cuba. The dictatorship cannot in any way be a benchmark in terms of racial equity. Why are they in the United Nations Human Rights Council? Without democracy and the rule of law, you cannot even discuss these issues freely and openly. We are also concerned about the display in these manifestations of images of Che Guevara. As we said, he's, you know, a hater of everything. You cannot move into the future without examining the past with a rational and non-judgmental look. Dictatorial regimes, such as the one that prevails in Cuba, or the one that Che Guevara tried to implant in other lands, are a permanent source of the spread of intolerance. Radical does not mean extremist, but to go to the root of the problems, and in this case, the origin of evil lies in the philosophy of the physical elimination of those who are different, whether by race, creed, political opinion, sexual orientation, or difference of any kind. An eye for an eye and the world will end up blind, said Mahatma Gandhi, very aptly stated. The real enemy is violence. And here is the board of directors of the Cuban National Foundation. Just thought I would share that with you guys.
It was real good, and it was funny. I had to say something very quick. I want to give you people a chance to speak, but back to what you guys mentioned earlier, Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. The Cuban people on the Black Lives Matters are pretty much coincide in one point. You can show the truth, and they still not seeing. They're still blind. They don't want to look it up. It's funny that you mentioned that Mr. Che Guevara's diaries mentioned that the Black peoples are lazy. You know, and they're very proud to say, "Hey, look at that Che Guevara, blah blah blah." Because unfortunately, and I had to mention Joe Biden called them somehow like a racist people. They call him very disrespectful way the Black community in America, and those are the same people sometimes I talk to, and they support Biden and Kamala right now. And I was like, how could you support a person that in public many times called you, blaming you because you are the worst people in this country, the worst race in this country. You have to have dignity yourself and say, okay, I'm not going to support you. I might not like Trump, but maybe I'm going to vote for the independent people. But I'm never going to vote for the people that offend me many times in TV. Have some respect to yourself. And Cuba sometimes, in Cuba right now, we lose that part too, because we actually being here calling out all the black stuff like, the government is doing. I mean, not the government, I'm sorry, the dictatorship over there is doing. The regiment over there is actually oppressing and killing them. And we keep telling him, hey guys, this is wrong. You guys have the right to speak up. You have the right to step up. You have the right to fight for your freedom. You have the right to do this. And they keep, digging a hole, putting their hands on the ground, and not even looking the truth. Even though when you present it to them, like explaining step by step, and they still looking to the side or justifying. And sometimes it's very frustrating. It's like, how you guys can continue doing that and supporting a person that it was a killer like Ernesto Che Guevara. Something very funny, and I had to admit it, when I was in Cuba, my ignorance at that time and my lack of knowledge, because we didn't have an internet, we couldn't actually dig in a little more, like with the ability of the information that we have over here, or the blessed to actually navigate on internet and Google it. It was a time period that in, I think 2007, most young people wearing the t-shirt with the face of Che Guevara, and it was very popular, every single one. I unfortunately was one of them, and now I regret this time, that ignorance that I actually commit to that, because if I knew what I know now, I would burn out, and I'd probably change my name. Even though my name started with Ernesto, I say my name is a blank every day that I pronounce it, because it reminds me that I am associated somehow with an assassin, with people that even actually cares about race. He just killed because he loved to do it, and he did it. Bunch of Cubans, and the worst part, he was not even Cuban. That's actually the part that actually irritates me the most. He was an EMP, the guy from outside, and we allowed him to kill our people, and we still clapping and celebrating an assassin kill our own generation, our own Cuban friends, family, people that probably we knew, or our family in the past knew, and we still, honor him when we're supposed to be completely erase his history from the earth, and that's very, very sad.
Don't blame yourself. It's not you. It's not me. It's none of us. Because when we were born, we have been indoctrinated already.
Mm-hmm.
we were indoctrinated by elders who knew whom he was and who were behind all this. We're talking about all these generals and Fidel Castro, Raúl Castro, all these elder people. So it's not you or me or none of us who were born. That had been in place there. I don't know. I was born in 1972, so it was the so-called revolution. I was like 13 years old when I was born. God, I'm getting old.
Yep.
Yeah. He's already done.
Right up there with
It's,
you.
it's very shameful. It's very shameful. Like we still announce that they calling out like a hero when he's not.
Yeah.
And
And
people like know the story. She's supposed to, speak up and say, "What you guys calling a hero? He's not really a hero. These guys did this and this.
Yeah.
These guys sent to this many people to death, condemn them to death, kill them off, just because they serve us somehow." Like I know stories like just people like service in the police department. Oh, that's your son? Yeah. Boom, in front of their mothers and their family, and just like that, just because he enjoyed killing, and that's something that is.
He wrote that to his father. Another violation in Cuba. Let me go back to violations in Cuba. There's an article in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I don't remember exactly what number it is, but it says that nobody should be treated like a slave. Right? Slavery was abolished so many years. You guys can hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's good though.
Okay. And I was just thinking, when I graduated back in 1995, I had to do what they call the social service, and I was paid 198 Cuban pesos. Was equivalent to $1.45 a month, because that was equivalent to $1.45 because in those days, $1 reached to the price of 140 Cuban pesos, 150 Cuban pesos.
Right.
So what is it called? Having someone working for an entire month for $1 and some change.
I think, Jose, it's your turn, Jose.
Okay. So just touching back, Enrique, I hope I can find that quote because I want to share with a bunch of friends I have from the Che. I think that's a great little piece of history to keep to share with people, just so they can keep things in perspective. And Sydney, you're 100% right. I actually got a message in WhatsApp from a close friend of mine in Cuba saying that in her neighborhood they were giving droplets out, and they didn't really know what the droplets were called or what they were doing, but pretty much everybody was being given them. And they said that for a couple of days they've had like digestion problems and stuff. This famous droplets. I'm from like an inner part of the country in Cuba, so it's a small little town. So word doesn't really get out that much except by people, people to people kind of thing.
What is it called? Where are you from?
I'm sorry?
What town are you from?
I'm from Colón, Matanzas, which is like, inside Matanzas country.
I know what it is.
Well, guys, I'm gonna have to make an intermediate stop here because we have somebody from all the way around the other side of the world here. So thank you for joining us, Omar from Germany.
Hi team, how are you?
I can't believe you're up this late.
Welcome, brother.
I'm so late, but the point is that's the time I have to play with stocks, so that's the time I have to start working.
Können Sie Deutsch sprechen, Omar?
Ja, ich spreche Deutsch auch.
Ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen auch.
We're in English here. We don't speak German.
Let's go back to
your own live stream.
If you ask Omar a hard question, he'll give you the good constitutional answer. Omar, if we ask you a hard question, you give us the right, the good constitutional answer. Remember the Fifth Amendment?
Understood.
Okay,
but I'm trying to give a a Mutar reply, but here we have the original Mutars here. So I have to put my thoughts in order. Otherwise, I make a lot of mistakes with English and wake up at 3 a.m.
Got you, Omar. Let me give you a little something, Omar, to chew on. I'm going to share another one of my shares. I'm going to share a happy news, right? But it is also the reason why it's happy. It's very disturbing. So,
Happy news from Cuba.
oh yeah, man, from outside of Cuba, maybe. So this is Lidier Hernandez.
Yeah, he did.
And he's one of the members of our organization, Somos Más. And what people may not know is that the Cuban government can just hold you for any reason they want. So Lidier, he was very active in Uruguay because that is where he lives, that is where he works. He's a resident. He's a tech guy. He's a developer. And while there, he organized a group of Cubans to go protest in front of the Cuban embassy, and then just in general oppose the Cuban influence and the Cuban violation of human rights. And he was very vocal on social media and also outside in Uruguay. You know, he got a permit and he did his protests and everything. Well, when he went to visit his mother in Cuba, he was not allowed to leave for 6 months. He lost his job. You know, thankfully, I mean, many people helped him. You know, we helped him out. But he has a wife and a child in Uruguay, and the Cuban government just decided to not let him leave the island until I think it was October 10 when he announced that he was coming back. I don't know, did he come back exactly on October 10, or was it a little bit later after?
A little bit late.
Okay. So yeah,
and there's no child. That was a mistake.
Oh, there's no
we
child.
made
I
those
thought he had a kid.
announcements.
Okay, so no child, just his wife.
Yep.
They said
Anyway, it's a crime.
they're
Anyway,
working on it.
No, yeah, definitely. So yeah, this decree law, these guys, they do these decrees, you know, and basically because of reasons of defense and national security and other public interests, they found that his demonstrations against the policies of the Cuban government in another country were hostile and offensive to the country. Yeah. And therefore, they used that weird law that they made up to keep him in Cuba for 6 months and cause him to basically, you know, almost lose his whole livelihood. Well, he did. He lost his job. And of course, you know, his mother in Cuba was very worried. She would tell him to please stop talking, please stop it. But he's a very manly man because he did not stop. He did not stop, you know, talking. Although he did have to use another account. He couldn't use his personal account in the last 4 months just so that the government wouldn't see what he was doing. But he would still post through our organization's account. But there are many more people that suffer from these so-called regulations where either they're not allowed to leave or they're not allowed to enter. Right. So especially when you're a doctor and you don't complete your mission, you're not allowed to go back for 8 years. Like I said before, my father was not allowed to bury his parents. Many people, for example, a lot of activists for human rights are not allowed to go to international conventions of human rights. So yeah, they basically, you know, there is no freedom of movement in Cuba.
I thank you for bringing that up, and I wanted to share my experience with that. And I know Sydney was talking about how he had to, you know, he was kind of on hold for 5 years by the government before he was able to leave. So basically it's the same thing. When I went to visit about 3 years ago, which was my last visit to Cuba, and I went to visit my husband's children and his family there, we were already part of this movement. And of course, I had spoken at the embassy in Washington D.C. and they had seen all my posts on Facebook, and they called us in interviewed us for about 3 hours. They held us. I mean, basically, we were retained for 3 hours, interviewed about everything in our life, until finally I just said, listen, we've answered all your questions. If you have anything else, either do I need to call a lawyer or am I free to go? And they said, you're free to go for now. The next time you're free to go for now. That's how they answered me. Oh, by the way, this was about the 10th time after they had called like everyone, every place we had stayed on, because they knew exactly where we were staying, with whom, everything about it. And so after that, I never went back to Cuba because I ended up with so much. I was so nervous that I ended up in a hospital. It was a lot for me. I told my husband, I will never come back because these people are going to leave us here one day. And so the next time my husband actually had to go back last year because his father was in very critical stage. He was in a hospital, and we thought we were going to lose him, honestly. And we had to go back mostly because he needed medication, because as Sydney can attest to, the healthcare system might be, free per se, which is not, but they want to tell you that it's free, but there's nothing there. So we had to take everything from here, including needles and just everything. We had to take everything to his operation in order for him to survive this. And so when my husband went to see his father, he was again detained and made to sign a paper stating that he was going to renounce to the movement when he would come back to the States. And of course, that he signed the paper so that they would let him go after they had threatened him with everything. They threatened him with his family. They knew exactly about his children, his father, the hospital. They knew everything. They knew every single thing. And of course, my husband came back here and spoke to Somos Mas and Eliezer, and we actually had a newspaper come out and did an article on us. But it happens. It happens to as long. One of the articles that actually it's in the new. It's funny. It's in the new. In the new Constitution, they state that as long as you're within their territory, you have to abide by their laws. So they can do with you whatever they want, which means they can retain you at any given point.
That's another reason.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a funny story. In the year 2012, I have to resign while in the military to the Cuban citizenship. If you want to move up and have access to somewhat classified information, call it security clearance, you need to be vetted, right? And one of the conditions is that you cannot have dual citizenship. You cannot. So, poor Innocent, the S2, the intelligence officers that was treating with me, he told me, "Hey, Radel, you need to resign to this your Cuban citizenship." It was like a ceremony. They destroy your passport, they make you sign, I swear, blah, blah. And we did all that, and they tore my passport, and we did all that stuff. He said, "How you feel?" And I thought, listen, I feel great. I've never been to Cuba, and I'm never going back, although my family, all my family is there. But I'm going to tell you something. For them, I'm still a citizen. It does not matter what that person wants or does not want. You are a citizen for the bad. You are never a citizen for the good. In Cuban, you are a citizen to be punished, to be expelled, to be incarcerated in the country, but you're never a citizen to go back to your country when you want to. We need a visa to go back. We need a permit to go back. We need to get out within a certain amount of time. We can only go when they say, yes, we can go to Cuba. But even if I said, you know what, I don't want to be part of you anymore. I don't want nothing to do with that. If ever, for any reason, I happen to end up inside, I won't be treated as no one will be treated as an American or anything else. You will be treated as Cuban because it's convenient. But if you're abandoned, if I am abandoned now in Somalia, and I go to the Cuban embassy with that passport, if I hadn't tore apart and I'm like, hey, I need help, they're going to be like, Claudia,
I don't know who you are.
Claudia, what are you doing here? Go to the, and that's the
Costa
sad
Rica.
part. That is the sad part.
Omar, we want to hear from you.
It's like it's an outstanding stories, but I was yesterday talking. Well, yesterday to me, to you, it's still today. I was talking with Ludier about all the stuff he was counting in a YouTube channel of a friend of mine, what was happening about all this time and all the circumstances that surrounding those critical scenarios. And the story, when you read about it, has a different tone, has a different perspective when it's talking with the guy. I'm telling you, okay, which is the status you have once you decide, okay, I would stay here. There's nothing else I can do, because that's the reason of its dictatorship, and that's the reason we want to change the way the things works in Cuba. Because at the end of the day, they can say delay the law, it's me, and then they can change it the way they want. Because the difference between he's in jail or not, it's not about its facts. It's not about its decisions. It's just someone that decides there's an investigation, there's a research about you, and then you're in jail. Because the point is, Cuba is not a state where they respect the civil rights. And when this element is out of the equation, a lot of stupid stuff that here in the free country we cannot even imagine. When you explain this to the a regular American citizen or to an European citizen, well, in the case of Europeans, it's not that far away. I'm in Germany and Berlin, so they have a past about DSS and the communist past of this country, so they know how bad the things can become. But there's also a lot of new generations that they think you're talking about a Netflix show or a thing like that, because it's out of its mind. They have been living its whole life surrounded by the benefit of a state that doesn't treat you as a criminal, and you don't have to prove your innocence. It's out of its mind, and it's a nice feeling when you see there are people that cannot even conceive these circumstances on its real life. But the worst thing is the people that comes to us and deny us on our faces that all we're saying it's false.
Right.
And it's super complicated to convince someone about your life. I was talking to Lydia and I told him I made the decision to no go back to Cuba, and it's based on its experience, because that's the other point. I don't want to compare my situation in a free country with someone that was retained against its will. But in my case, it's like, okay, I don't want to give them the chance to decide what will it be with my life. I'm an adult. I have to take the responsibility of my decisions, but the consequences can be that worse. I won't try to let them see if they want to be democratic and respect my rights if I have congruent evidence about they don't. So in my case, I decided to no go back to Cuba, and it was exactly because of this.
Right. Yeah.
All right, guys, it's 2 minutes to the 2-hour mark. So let's start saying goodbye.
I can't believe it's been 2 hours already. It feels like we just got started. Well, thank you all so much. This has been wonderful to have you all. I really am touched by you guys joining. So many of you joining us today. Hopefully people will start hearing us, Omar. Yes.
Hey, one thing very quick. Like Osmel was saying, guys, don't forget vote. Don't forget actually keep asking people, go and vote, go do your thing. I mean, vote and do the right thing, even though you don't like
Vote
the president. Right. Yeah.
Vote right.
Who did you vote to,
Right.
Osmel? Who did you vote to?
Well,
I think it was Biden. He sounds like Biden.
like this, but it was a secret. I kept it to myself. I didn't tell
Gotcha.
anybody.
Yeah,
It's hard to tell. It's gonna be hard to tell.
I tell people, a lot of people tell me, how can you go for somebody that has talked about Hispanics so badly or about women, has treated women so badly? And I say, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not.
No.
You know, I'm not. I don't like his persona per se, but I don't have to like the guy. I'm not voting for Trump. I'm voting for democracy.
Or
Yeah.
his pen.
That's what I.
For democracy for my country. That's what I'm voting.
That's exactly what the same way that me and my wife we talk about it, and it's like we in this campaign, we don't voting for the guy who's gonna be, you know, the face of the country. Yeah, he is gonna be, but also we voting for the freedom on every area, every possible thought, and also we voting with heart because we're voting against the communists, you know, on the socialists. That's the main thing we have to put that on the plate. It's capitalism versus
You don't
communists.
In
No,
life,
what else?
It's too
in
easy.
life,
If you
there's
don't vote for
sayers
Trump,
and there's
you're voting
doers. You can hate what somebody says all the time, but you should look at what they do.
Sir.
That defines a lot more than what you say. So that's my opinion on it. But also, we're also doers, and I hope to see some of you in New York on Saturday because we're gonna
I'll
be there
be
showing
there.
face.
I'll be there.
Throw me a smoke signal because I need to find people, and that place is huge. So throw me a smoke signal so I can find y'all.
Hey, about
Okay.
Awesome.
I'll
Awesome, guys.
About that, I got
Yeah.
a question. Who is going? Because
listen to
actually-
the saving. He left. Hold on. Let him talk. Zainab, you had some.
No, I was saying bye, and I think it's too easy. If you don't vote for Trump, you're voting for Kamala Harris, and that should be the message. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other part.
I'm trying to get some people together to go to New York from Casa Cuba here in Tampa. So
Awesome.
I'm working on it. Tomorrow I'm gonna see if we can rent a microbus, microbus of 16 seats, and just go there.
Okay.
Be there. We have to do
We'll
it.
see you there. I already have tickets. We'll be there since from Thursday to Monday. Actually, we're gonna be there all week.
Oh man, I got a quick question because I'm interested to go from Tampa. So whoever actually decide to go, please contact me through Facebook. My Facebook is like Ernesto.
Send me a friend's request on Facebook, and we can interchange numbers. And
Yeah.
if I get the amount of people we need, we can rent the microbus and go there.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I was trying to organize the people here in Tampa and some of us in Tampa, so it's good to know like Tampa is going. I also contact Miami. So hey guys, very quick, if you guys don't have a way to go, please feel free to contact me through Facebook. I don't mind to actually help us to coordinate, and we can actually look out for each other. So sometimes the big group the group is not too big, but we can actually work out.
Person, and let's see, because tomorrow I want to make like some kind of a meeting at La Casa Cuba here, and we're gonna start from there. If the meeting is gonna be, I believe, on Wednesday, I gotta like find the kind of transportation we're going to use tomorrow. So I'm going to just shop around and see the transportation we're going to be using.
Hey, don't forget Omarito. Omarito needs to go too, so let's go pick out Omarito too as well. Omarito, get ready.
Indeed, I was thinking about to go to Geneva, but okay. If you can help me to fly to America first.
We'll send you an Uber. We'll send you an Uber.
Yeah, there we go.
Man, I want to go walking. I need to lose weight.
What part of Germany are you?
Excuse me?
In what part of Germany are you?
I'm in Berlin.
In Berlin?
Oh, yes.
8 weeks in Balsa, man. That's
I can find you guys through Facebook with those names, right? That we have in the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Because when I get there, I want to find y'all.
Oh, Marito, I'm gonna send you a private jet. I work for Gulfstream as a mechanic, so get ready. I'm gonna send you a G650, first class. What everything. So don't worry, nothing's gonna make it
right now.
There you go. Special. That's coming from Trump. So Strong.
Get
Otaola,
a chopper. Get
you
a
are
chopper.
not a celebrity
Oh,
anymore.
they're flying
You have
in.
never flight.
Yeah, you are not the old.
Is it right there a pilot?
Huh?
Right there, aren't you a pilot?
Crew chief.
Oh my God! There we go.
Oh, crew
There you
chief.
go.
Well,
Juanito,
an Apache,
you-
right?
Apache, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not the one
Apache
to fly,
helicopter.
but
Yeah.
Juanito, you
That's
are not
me.
the Ola, are the special guest. So get ready, all right? Because we don't want to left anybody out.
Hey, love you
All right, guys.
Put in the hood.
Hey guys.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for
Bye.
participating. If you don't have to be Cuban to go help out the cause. So if you need any help coordinating, maybe getting on this bus or booking a plane ticket and finding out where the people are going to be, just contact us. I'll be looking at the comments here on Facebook and YouTube, and then we'll help you coordinate so that you can join the demonstration in New York or in Geneva. Okay. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
And have a great night.
Likewise. If you guys are looking for me on Facebook, go by my name, Ernesto Alejandro Hinojosa. Send me a friend request and contact me, and we can coordinate whoever's wanting. Because I'm driving, I like to drive, so I enjoy more the view, all that. So that's the way I'm going over there. So you guys can contact me, and we can coordinate. All right. Pleasure to be with you guys here, and I'll see you next Monday, right?
Next
Yeah.
Monday,
Sounds
8
good.
p.m. Ciao, ciao.
Really?
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.